you.
Hey, thanks everybody for gathering here. We're again appreciate you dialing into Naval X here and experimenting with us as we figure out different ways to engage with you. And as always, I appreciate opportunity for us to get together and keep you updated on what's going on in the Navy. Exciting day here at Naval X. You were here sometime back when we announced kind of the first tech bridges. And at that time, I said that was a starting point for a larger network as we connect up all of the innovators, performers, collaborators, problems to solutions, and solutions to new activities here. And so the announcement today that we're going to discuss not only what we've done with tech bridges to date, but pretty exciting today, we're going to double the size of the tech bridge network. So 6 additional sites we're adding into the network. And so the team here will kind of give you an update where those sites are, kind of what the focus is for each one of those. The director of the Tech Bridge Network will give you kind of put it in a larger perspective, and then we'll have short statements from each of the different sites with their perspective here. And again, if you pull back to where we started, there's lots of great activities going on across Navy Marine Corps team, but we wanted to make sure we had an easy way to connect everybody up so we could accelerate our learning, connect better folks with ideas to solutions, and then folks with solutions to the folks that could put those into use. Our focus continues to be how do we support sailors and Marines downrange? How do we increase our speed? How do we learn from each other and get network type speed as opposed to individual speed? If you recall also, Navy is blessed with a great network of performers. Last year we did, highest year ever of putting dollars on contract, but also in that the largest small business awards we've done, $16 billion direct to small performers. 18% of our spend went to small performers. So as we have worked across the Navy to increase our ability to connect up best performers to problems, Naval X is worked in stride. They'll tell you about the amount of awards we've done through tech bridges. The SBIRS program, as many of you, if you dialed in last week to the Aerospace Expo, we talked about small business, how we're accelerating that SBIRS program, kind of getting 5 times speed, 10 times the number of performers in there. Think of Naval X and this tech bridge as the underlying network which facilitates all of that. It's not an activity unto itself as much as connecting everybody together so that we can speed discovery all the way through deployment and a focus on all phases of support, not just early R&D, but all the way through sustainment. And so with that kind of as an opening intro, I'll have Chubs here talk through kind of putting in perspective the new tech bridge sites we're adding to the network, and then we'll go to each one of the networks and then leave plenty of time for Q&A. So with that, over to Chubs.
Great. Thanks, sir. So we're going to throw up some slides here so you guys can understand how the network started, what we've done in the last 9 months, and then the new locations that we're going to be adding in. So we've seen tremendous success in these first 6 locations. We started last September with 5. 2 months later, we added Palmetto Tech Bridge in Charleston, South Carolina. And what we've seen in those first months, in the last 9 months, is $45 million obligated through programs that were identified through the tech bridges, through existing programs, largely through SBIR, as well as a lot of rapid prototyping authorities used through ONR. Additionally, we were able to leverage the tech bridge network when we came into the crisis that we're in right now. In just a month, focused on COVID efforts, tech bridges met on a daily and then weekly basis to connect all the teams together and find out how are people using their additive manufacturing capability? How are they able to get things on contract? How are they able to work with local FEMA representatives and get things approved for medical use? So we're able to get in 1 month $800,000 obligated to those efforts. So because of all that, we saw a dramatic increase in a lot of other locations that wanted to build their ecosystem as well and have a tech bridge. So this is where we stand today. What you see are the 6 current locations. And today we're announcing these next ones. So here you see a big congregation on the West Coast around the Naval Postgraduate School in the Central Coast, Inland Empire around the Warfare Center in Corona, Ventura County, which has 2 warfare centers in Port Hueneme and Point Loma. And then over here on the East Coast, we see Southern Maryland around Pax River, Mid-Atlantic, which is a fleet concentration area made up of several different groups that you'll hear about, as well as the National Capital Region. So how we came to use, designate these locations as the next ones, we went out and we looked, how do you build a tech bridge? And the key piece that we need is we need to build a team centered around each of these locations. So the people I'm about to introduce you to are the people that fostered that. They went out into their local ecosystem and they found the teams that they wanted to connect with in academia, industry, as well as inside their own warfare centers as well. So with that, I'm going to pass you off to the new National Capital Region Tech Bridge Director, Krista. All right, Krista, can we hear you?
Thank you, Commander Gray. I'm Krista McKellis, the Director of the Capital Tech Bridge located in the National Capital Region. I represent Naval Surface Warfare Center Carteroff Division, and I'm excited to team with 3 commands, Naval Surface Warfare Centers Dahlgren and Indian Head EOD Technology Division, and the Marine Corps Warfighting Laboratory. Our first off-base innovation space is located at the Garden in Alexandria, Virginia. The facility includes a machine shop to tinker and a large event space where we can bring the right minds together. Digital engineering is the first technical focus of the Capital Tech Bridge, as data-driven decision-making is the future. We are looking to leverage digital models and tools throughout the life cycle of a naval platform and gain additional insights into performance. We're interested in teaming with partners in all aspects of the digital thread continuum: digital design, digital manufacturing, application of digital twin concepts, big data analytics, machine learning, and high performance computing, to name a few. These areas are rich with insights from folks across government, industry, and academia, and working together, we can really move the needle forward. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Are you guys able to hear me? Sorry to have some technical difficulties here, but thanks, Krista. Hello, my name is Chris Manuel from the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California, and I'm the director for the Central Coast Tech Bridge. The California Central Coast extends from north of LA County all the way into Silicon Valley. Within this area, we have many cutting-edge technology companies, academic institutions, innovation centers, and Lawrence Livermore National Lab. MPS's vision is to connect our unique students and faculty to provide the Tech Bridge network a variety of potential partnerships across all 5 warfighting domains. We plan to leverage our 4 world-class schools that oversee 77 master's and 16 doctoral programs and our Camp Roberts Field Experimentation Site. We have cleared airspace for autonomous vehicle testing there also. We also plan to partner with our non-traditional innovation partners throughout the region to deepen our cyber, space, and oceanographic capabilities. These connections will enhance our ability to develop and transfer technologies. We look forward to working with our regional partners to provide capabilities at the speed of relevance while enhancing education opportunities. And with that, I'll turn it over to Troy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning. I'm Troy Clark with the Naval Surface Warfare Center Corona in California and the director of the Inland Empire Tech Bridge. You know, the Naval Surface Warfare Center vision is to optimize decision-making for warfighting and fleet readiness. And the Inland Empire Tech Bridge is going to focus on 3 key areas to fulfill that vision. First, data analytics and visualization. We're a leader in the Navy's data analytics space for performance and readiness, and we're going to continue to expand that capability as we drive towards our vision. Second, networked data environments. Corona is the technical agent behind the Naval Live Virtual Constructive, or LVC, training environment, which is going to become increasingly important for the integrated Navy Marine Corps team. Third, measurement technology. We're the measurement science and calibration agent for the Navy and Marine Corps, and we're keeping pace with measurement technology for high energy weapon systems like laser weapon systems. So it's data analytics and visualization, it's network data environments, and it's measurement technology. And we're really excited to work with our partners in the Inland Empire and our innovators in the Inland Empire to drive innovation at the speed of relevance and get it into the hands of the warfighters where it matters most. And with that, let's turn it over to a warfighter right now, Commander Bobby Hanvey. Bobby?
Hey, Troy. Video is not starting, so it might start here in a minute. But thank you, Troy. I am Commander Bobby Hanvey, and I am with Commander 2nd Fleet, and I am the director of the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge. We are excited to partner with 3 different naval laboratories or warfare centers. So 2 are Naval Surface Warfare Centers, the Dahlgren Division, Dam Neck Activity, and the Carderock Norfolk Detachment. And the 3rd is the Naval Information Warfare Center, Atlantic Hampton Roads Detachment. So the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge is located uniquely in next to the largest naval base in the world and one of the largest concentration of Navy and Marines in one area. So our partners, coupled with this area and location, give us access to a wide range of Navy and Marine problems and users. In addition, we will tie that operational fleet and those fleet commands to the larger national tech bridge network. With the wide span of operational areas and expertise, we're going to connect to a lot of different technical areas, some of them such as cyber, unmanned systems and robotics, artificial intelligence and machine learning, advanced communication control, additive manufacturing, and many others. We've already signed the first of what we expect will be several partnership agreements in the Hampton Roads and larger Mid-Atlantic region in order to bring innovation at the speed of need to the hands of Navy and Marine warfighters. So speaking of that larger region, I'm going to turn it over to one of the closest regional tech bridge directors, Rick Tarr. Rick?
Thank you, Bobby. I'm Rick Tarr, Director of Southern Maryland's Tech Bridge. My command, the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division, or NAWC-AD, leads Southern Maryland's Tech Bridge with the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Indian Head, Maryland. Our Tech Bridge focuses on 4 areas. Unmanned aviation, we're the home of Naval Aviation's first dedicated unmanned test squadron. Our unfettered airspace, ranges, and test assets prime us for advanced unmanned research and test. Autonomous systems, our force of more than 10,000 are an epicenter for accelerating acquisition, test, and fielding of autonomous systems to the tactical edge. Modeling and simulation, NAWC-AD leads the DoD's M&S efforts to optimize engineering and test in controlled virtual environments for experimentation. And then finally, live virtual constructive environments. We're putting live virtual and computer-based elements together, enabling warfighters to train like they fight in lifelike scenarios before experiencing real-life battle spaces. We know the power that innovation and rapid acquisition puts in the hands of the warfighter. We look forward to the innovation and enhanced industry partnerships that Southern Maryland's Tech Bridge will bring to the Navy and ultimately to the fight. Now I'll turn it over to Alan.
Hey, thank you, Rick. Hello, this is Alan Yeager from the Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division, and Director of the Ventura Tech Bridge. Ventura County, California is home to a diverse and geographically rich environment that includes public and private universities, a high technology corridor, as well as Naval Base Ventura County. The Naval Base includes Point Mugu, Port Hueneme, and San Nicolas Island, which serves the Pacific Fleet as an all-in-one mobilization site, deepwater port, railhead, and airfield. The Tech Bridge is located in the Port of Hueneme in partnership with the Economic Development Collaborative and Matter Labs. Our Tech Bridge has already partnered with regional stakeholders to establish an off-site innovation laboratory as a public-private consortium and resource for technical innovation and capability transition. The facility includes 60,000 square feet of space with advanced prototyping equipment, including additive manufacturing, advanced material characterization and testing, unmanned systems development, and soon to include a mixed reality environment, all supporting the development and deployment of advanced in-service engineering capabilities for our fleet and warfighter. Back over to you guys.
Great.
All right, thanks team for kind of those quick intros. I know we're bouncing all over the place here, but I did want to give you kind of a smattering of everybody's perspective from their individual areas, and then a sense of how that draws into the broader team. And you guys have heard me really focus on the importance of agility and pivot speed and bringing in, you know, a diverse set of folks into our network so that we can move at network speed. And so this kind of gives you a feel for where we're at. And so kind of with that as an intro and some background, I would suggest now we kind of go through Q&A and we can kind of dive down into any of the particulars or any facet you want here. So Danny, I turn it back to you.
Okay, just for, we have a couple of media members that aren't familiar with their faces, so I do want to go back and maybe restate the names. So those folks out in Riverside and down in Norfolk at least know who they're talking to. So I've got Mr. James Gertz, who you were just talking to. He's the ASN RDA. You have his name and title that I sent you in the email. And then on the left here in the gray t-shirt or collared shirt is Chubs.
Commander Sam Gray, Gray.
And you have his name and title in the email as well, just so you have basic recognition. During this Q&A period, the media members are now being pulled into the show as presenters. In order to speak and ask a question, I just ask that you unmute your mic before you ask your question. And if you want to show your face up there, also, you'll have to share your camera. And that's at your own doing if you desire to do so. It's not required. So with that said, sir, I'm going to start off with Megan Eckstein from USNI.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Hi, Megan.
Hey, thank you very much for doing this. I had two questions, if you don't mind. First, I was wondering just over the last year with the original tech bridges, if you could kind of walk through some of the successes that you had and any particular, you know, items that you really wanted to highlight, showing how this was able to bring together those in the tech community. And then as you sought to expand, I was wondering if it was kind of going after, you know, new locations where there were willing and able participants, or if you were really targeting certain tech areas where maybe you saw a gap that wasn't being filled already.
Yeah, so maybe Megan, I'll just have maybe an overarching comment and then certainly turn over to Chubs for kind of his perspective on both activities, successes, and then you know, how we go about choosing. And quite frankly, this is not the end. I see us expanding this further as mission dictates. But you know, you've heard me talk about the last couple of years. We need to both expand our reach, increase our efficiency to make it easier to collaborate and more efficient to collaborate, and then align resources, activities, and so that we can make the most out of every dollar we have for the taxpayer so we can accelerate things. And then you've heard me talk about how do we share lessons and best practices quickly across the network so we aren't trying to all innovate from scratch and we can build upon a number of successes. So Naval X overall has been doing, you know, playbooks and pioneering new tools, new ways to think about design thinking. I think of this kind of tech bridge and this Naval X network is to then both collect best practices and where we're seeing success and then rapidly get it out to everybody so that we can speed up our learning and employment speed. And so as we have more and more tech bridges, that increases our surface area and reach and ability to bring in more folks in the network, both to learn from, to collaborate with, and then also to get our problems, our information out, and also to allow sailors and Marines easy touch points as they have problems or solutions. So that's kind of my view at the macro. Chubs, over to you, your perspective.
Yeah, thanks, sir. Yeah, Megan, great question. I'll say, you know, at the large level, really what we did was connect these nodes together so they could learn from each other. As Secretary Gertz said in his statement at the beginning, you know, the tech bridges aren't an entity in and of themselves. They are a platform to bring people together that are already doing great work across the various ecosystems, whether that's inside the Navy or also people out in academia and industry. So some of those successes that we've seen is teaching our warfare centers and people that want to move faster how to use some of these new authorities by finding the people who have already done it, who has had success with rapid prototyping, who has had success with OTAs, or able to get SBIR topic areas into the pipeline faster so that they can leverage those tools to the needs that they see. It also gets us closer to the warfighter, the end users, who are ultimately the most important people in our ecosystem, who's actually going to be using those tools. which is also something we learned from industry, is when they use those tools like SBIR, they truly need access to who is going to be using it at the end of the day. So if we can have a space, a collaborative, low barrier of entry environment to bring people together, that's where the successes have been seen.
Megan, the other thing I would say is this is a little of, 1 + 1 = 3. We had a lot of, folks working hard, but not necessarily aligning all the different activities, whether it's, how we've, increased SBR timelines by 5 times, or the impressive work ONR is doing to engage through national security innovation networks, the things local and state governments are doing at their level. All were great initiatives, but they were all kind of swimming upstream together. And by, kind of formalizing this tech bridge and giving everybody a platform to come on, we're also, much more efficient, and we're seeing collaborations and interactions that normally wouldn't occur if it was a purely kind of a transactional approach to things.
Okay, thank you. And as for the second question, whether the new locations are kind of, based on availability or based on your gaps that you had?
Yeah, so the biggest thing we look for when we're going out into that is there an ecosystem that we want to tap into? And that can actually be there's sort of 3 different, legs to that stool. There's the Navy and Marine Corps side of the house. Then there's outside the gate, you have the academia arm, as well as industry. And some of these places have more in one region or the next, but we're not hyper focused on specific technologies that we think we found a gap for. Rather, we want to find the teams, the group of people that we're going to bring together, and then let that expand. And part of this is what we've seen with the original ones is we actually didn't know the direction that it would go, who would get the most involved. We use the examples that we had seen for the last 20 years in Crane, Indiana, and Orlando, Florida, which were 2 of our first tech bridges, because they had been doing this for a while. And a lot of their best stories were not the planned outcomes. It was just by bringing people together. Then they identified new paths to go out with. We're also seeing great success with that in Newport, Rhode Island, which was one of the first models that we used, where the state of Rhode Island is actually the primary and pushing for that through their manufacturing extension partnership.
And then finally, Megan, I guess I would say, right, we're trying to get the return on collision. The DoD's been experimenting on this to some degree. I was doing it at SOCOM with SoftWorks prior to this, but we got a little too focused in my mind on one location to do everything. Whereas the Navy, our mission set is so broad, Navy and Marine Corps' mission set so broad, we have so many different activities. And so the real key for us is not, one network for everybody linked into, but not one location or one specific way of doing everything. That's what we're really trying to capture here. Kind of the power of the network. Over.
Megan, I got to move through a lot of reporters here, so I'm going to move on. I got to go to Jared, and then Mike Gooding will follow.
Hi, thanks for doing this. As you look at more expansion, do you see those being mostly around other existing warfare centers, or are there types of hubs that you might look at that may not be at a Navy warfare center?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've actually been exploring a lot of different models. And one of the things we've seen is there are areas that we're extremely interested in because they have those other 2 legs of the ecosystem that I described. They have a really strong academic institution or a tech focus area that we haven't tapped into. So we have been exploring other regions, and there's nothing that says we need to model this specifically around a warfare center. They understood this model because of the authorities and the mission that they have. But as you see, we've added today the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey as the Central Coast. They are not a warfare center. They're an academic institution, but they have access to true warfighters, and they have an ecosystem that we really wanted to tap into. So we're constantly looking and exploring for those new areas.
And Jared, I guess the other thing I would add is we're also not going to duplicate it just for the sake of duplicating. So if another service or somebody else has got, an activity going on that we can tap into and create a network link, let's say the SoftWorks at SOCOM, there's no reason we need to duplicate that. We just need to include them in the network. So, we're careful that this is a network. It's not a branding kind of thing. It's really about how do we create the right connections so that we can operate at network speed. And so, I think part of its strength will be that we don't define it too specifically. And specific to your question, this is not just a warfare center exclusive activity. We'll leverage the warfare centers, but it's not a warfare center specific activity.
Yeah, I was curious about that joint interagency piece too. Have you guys thought through, how another service or defense agency would plug into this superstructure?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just say there is a fairly well-known, network, I'd say, of rebels across the DoD. We've hosted events here where we collect up lots of collaborators from across. And so, this is not a us versus them or who's got the cooler innovation thing. And so part of our model, part of my kind of direction and intent is find the best performers and the best areas to link into, and only create in an area where there's something that we need to create. And I think the relationships and the kindred spirit, we're already doing joint SBIRs across the services. We host numerous joint events. There's, it's just creating the platform for us to get together, and that platform is not service specific from my perspective.
Thanks, Jared. I'm going to go to Mike Gooding in Norfolk, and then I'll go to Barnett.
Thanks, Danny. Mr. Secretary, super broad question, generalized question. We talk about the need to get to 355 ships. Last time I saw you, you were down in Portsmouth back in January, sticking a shovel in the dirt to do improvements at the Norfolk Naval Shipyard. So all those kind of hardware issues are super important. But in the grand scheme of things, how important is this enterprise and this initiative in the future of our national defense?
Yeah, so I think you're right. You can get target fixated on big pieces of hardware or big pieces of real estate, and they're all vitally important. But in my mind, the strength of our Department of the Navy or DoD, and quite frankly, our nation, is around ideas, around collaboration, and then about linking problem solvers to folks with problems. And so while we need to stay focused on those capital projects because they're resource intensive and vital, we also need to constantly challenge ourselves. Are we acting at the pace of relevance? And how can we accelerate our learning? Because if we're going to compete at a global scale, it's going to rely on our ability to create diverse, inclusive, and thoughtful organizations who can experiment quickly and act with, you've probably heard me use the term bold humility, right? We want to be humble that if somebody else is doing something that we can partner with, we want to leverage them and not feel like it's, not invented here syndrome. But we also have to be bold to get equipment, ideas, capability in the hands of our sailors and Marines, because that's, where innovation really takes off. And so, these, I think these tech bridges sometimes get a little bit too pigeonholed in a technology vein. It's really creating collaboration space where we can get, warfighter, provider, technologist, acquisition person, supply corps person, SWO person, average citizen who has a good idea, kind of all together, because that collision of ideas is our enduring strength as a Navy and a nation. And so I think that's what you're seeing. Not really a focus here, but a really great story is how we leverage this tech bridges and Naval X for incorporating design thinking into the services, particularly the Marine Corps, and how to think about things differently as opposed to handing solutions. And so I see all that as vitally important, why I'm spending a lot of my personal time learning from this group, experimenting with this group. And if COVID-19 didn't teach us anything else, it's that, pivot speed, adaptability, and resilience is really important. And, my long time in SOCOM in this environment has shown a great network with a diverse set of performers is the best way to be resilient and have great pivot speed. Over.
Yes, sir.
I'll go to Barnett and then Paul McCleary.
Hi, sir. Thank you very much for doing this. I'm hoping to know, how are you measuring success here? You're talking about just wanting to create collaboration and improve networks and being able to offer spaces and ability for ideas to come together. But say like in a year's time, as you look to expand this, how are you going to judge what is going well, what is not going well, and kind of the type of things that you're going to continue to push for, and maybe things you might adjust as you learn more about the
Yeah, I think,
so anything you can offer and just say how you're measuring this.
Yeah, that's a key question. It's been one of those, vexing questions about, this is not here to be in a cool space or to, be able to play pinball games or something else. It's got to matter to our customer. I think one of the ways, and we don't have all the answers to that. Quite frankly, some of that's why we're using this as an experimental platform. And I'll, again, let Chubs dime in. One of the ways I measure success is, are we making it easier to get diverse communities together? Are we making it easier for somebody with a good idea to be able to get that to us to be evaluated? Are we making faster connections to the network? Are we providing better training and access to tools and best practices out to the network? Those eventually will wrap into mission outcomes because we'll be faster and we'll use more creative tools. But quite frankly, one of the things Naval X has done for us that's been very valuable are, OTA handbooks. OTAs are a great contracting tool, but we had a lot of, everybody was trying to invent how to use them best from scratch. And that's both inefficient and slow. And so, that's kind of the things I'm tracking at the strategic level. I don't know, Chubs, if you've got.
Yes, sir. Yeah, a lot of the things we've looked at because of the short duration that we've existed are really leading indicators. The things that just show hopefully the direction that we're going. And as Secretary Gertz mentioned, we do a lot of training, a lot of internal focus, and a lot of the questions we ask are subjective. We ask our team and the people that come in to work with us, if they're given a new project and they wanted to do something more agile or work with new tools, would they know how to get started? And, Secretary Gertz mentioned the Center for Adaptive Warfighting and some of the internal training. The numbers we see there are, it's roughly 30% of our workforce say that they would understand how to kick off a lone project by their own that they would qualify as agile or innovative. When they finish with that program, it's up above 90%. But really, we need to get to those lagging indicators, those things down the road, which you mentioned as the mission success is, can we reduce the time to get those projects actually through? And can we pass the valley of death into the programs that go into becoming programs of record, or at least get out into the field where they're being used by end users?
Yeah, the other thing I would look for is, we have a very diverse Navy. It's in many locations. We've got many different warfare focus. And if you're not careful, you can very quickly duplicate effort. And it's not because anybody is trying to do it. They just don't have the time or the wherewithal to quickly figure out who else in the Navy is already doing it to start from their standpoint. And so I also look in terms of measures. I look for efficiency and how do we connect teams together that, if you're an undersea team and you want to fly a UAV, you shouldn't have to invent how to fly a UAV at that team. You should go figure out who already knows how to fly a UAV or vice versa. So I think as we get into more multi-domain warfare, where all of these mission types start blending together, that will also, that also necessitates that we really look hard and figure out who's best performer. And then finally, I look at stuff like the SBIR program. How is this helping me find new entrants? So our last SBIR BAA, we had 10 times the number of applications as we did previously. I think we had 38% who had never applied. We were able to use our distributed network to assess the SBIRs at 5 times the speed previously done. And so all those are then showing me we're getting a wider set of ideas that we're evaluating faster and being able to execute more quickly. That's critical, particularly now as we go into, working through delay and disruption in COVID, because I'm worried that we are going to lose, a lot of our smaller performers that are vital to the Navy's future. And so, I've challenged the SBIR team. They're looking to double the amount of SBIR awards in the next 60 days, $250 million in the next 90 days. Our ability to do that smartly is directly tied to how good a network we have and how effectively we can communicate to that network what our needs are, what their opportunities are, and then quickly assess them. And so that would be that's now starting to become mission outcome measures, not activity measures. Over.
We'll go to Paul McCleary and then Marcus Weisberger.
Hi, good afternoon. Curious what what does success look like for this effort in, say, 3 to 5 years? And how do you kind of break down some of the kind of stovepipes that exist, I guess, across the Navy and even DoD in order to get the institution to buy into this?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that we've gotten from the start. So one of the biggest ways that we tell this, particularly to a new region as we go into it, is that we don't want this to be a centrally mandated, centrally funded program. The power of this is in the network. And we really want to see a case where they see value in it. So when Naval X arrives, we come in with a very small amount of what we call seed funding to get their effort going. Now, they need to have skin in the game for the local Navy and Marine Corps entity. They need to provide that lead, who you met 6 of them earlier. But we only really show funding available for the next 2 years, where we will find projects, we'll help, they find the projects, and then we help fund those projects to try to prove value to them. So in 3 to 4 years, if we haven't demonstrated value, then there won't be any funding for them to carry this forward. We'll be on to finding new locations and expanding, growing the network. So that's really the value that we hope to see, is that they find internal ways, local ways to fund this effort. But that's not always going to be just Navy and Marine Corps money. We've seen in the existing tech bridges that they're able to go out and find partners, whether that's through an OTA consortium, through an academic institution, a state entity, or even some of the major defense contractors have all found ways to partner into this so that everybody is providing some funding. So that's one of the major ways we look at it.
Yeah, the other way I look at this is, again, we're already making the spend, so this shouldn't be thought of as a new program that's going to have a lot of embedded infrastructure that we're going to have to carry for a long time. Because if that's what it is, and we're just trading embedded infrastructure for embedded infrastructure, what I'm really looking for is, how do we, if we're going to spend in an area or a location or in a particular technology focus area, how do we do that more smartly, maximize our outcomes so that we don't have an O&R program paying a group to put a location together, and then we have another program paying a group to put another location a block away, but they didn't talk, and another one doesn't know it's already done, and so they try and reinvent things. And so success to me looks like it's value added to the end customer. That's where I always measure success, through the eyes of the sailors and Marines, and that it's allowed us to get our iteration speed up and our iteration costs down. If it hasn't done that, then it was an experiment we tried that we'll move on to another different idea. Everything in my experience base says a great collaborative partnership and network will outpace any individual activity if it's performing well, but it's got to demonstrate it every day. There's no givens here.
Marcus didn't have a question, so I'm going to go over to Justin Katz and then Lee Hudson.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So actually, my question for Mr. Gertz was asked. So Commander, for you, you mentioned a number $45 million obligated in contracts. Can you elaborate on that number a little bit? I didn't catch the nuance there. And how exactly did the tech bridges facilitate that number?
Right. So the lion's share of that, upwards of $30 million, was identification of future SBIR topic areas that were important to multiple tech bridges. They were largely in sustainment focus. These are areas that we have a newfound focus on, and they knew they had projects coming, but there wasn't designated funding for them. So by talking together, getting a larger group, they could go and speak directly with the Navy's SBIR office and identify focus areas for them. So that's the majority of that. Some of the other were OTAs in rapid prototyping that we use largely through the Office of Naval Research. So those are going through multiple programs. A lot of them are prize challenges that go from about $1.5 million total award value spread across 6 to 9 months.
And just a quick follow-up. So the tech bridges facilitated that money being obligated quicker because of the group effort that was now being focused into it? I just want to be clear about how the tech bridges are associated with that number.
Right. So the tech bridges were able to take from the local ecosystem, the local Navy and Marine Corps offices, to find out what programs were not being funded or they needed to have inside of the normal cycle, and then identify whether it was a prize challenge, an OTA, or SBIR that could deliver that faster. So as Secretary Gertz said earlier, these are all largely existing programs that we're just identifying and sharing with the network how to leverage them.
So Justin, the way I think about it, right, you've heard me talk about we need to reduce the cost to keep the Navy and Marine Corps ready and sustained. Some of that is through using new and novel technology and ideas to get after old problems, right? It could be, how do we leverage big data to get after a better maintenance strategy? It could be, how do we use new technology that helps us, like an exoskeleton in a naval shipyard, so we don't have as many injuries, or a robotic technology that allows us to inspect or clean a tank without having to send a bunch of sailors or shipyard workers in there. And so the challenge has been in the past, without a centralized or a collaborative node, connecting a shipyard worker in a naval shipyard to an SBIR program at ONR is a pretty large organizational distance, which travels across many different funding streams, many different organizational streams. Just culturally, you know, I wouldn't expect those two communities to know how to communicate effectively to each other, nor to, you know, this is really about exposing and leveraging opportunity. And so we may not know that, you know, an exoskeleton company somewhere else could solve, in Utah, say, could solve a shipyard problem in Portsmouth. So to me, what the big deal about a tech bridge is, it gives entry points and network points that whoever that tech bridge director is in the tech bridge knows, hey, I know there's a group, a tech bridge in Portsmouth that you can connect to, or I know the folks at ONR that run that program. Have you thought about taking your challenge in running a prize challenge on it? Or have you thought about talking to the SBIRs? Or if you're a new company, do you know we have a BAA coming out in 2 weeks and we're really interested in technologies that can solve this problem? And so that's really where I see the power of this. Otherwise, it's just up to each individual to hunt and peck on the internet and their network of you know, who they might know or who they've done business with, and that's just not efficient or effective. And that's really where I see this power of collaborating. And then finally, it may be that, say, in a mid-Atlantic region, which does a lot of ship repair outside the Navy, you know, the state is already funding a workforce development program or a technology program that the Navy wasn't even aware of. But if we can put what the state or local is doing for economic development together with what we want to do from a Navy mission perspective, we can create these win-win scenarios where a workforce development or an economic development program locally can be applied, or we can learn from, for a Navy program, or vice versa.
Thank you.
I'll go to Lee Hudson and then to David Downey.
I don't have a question right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lee. David Downey, out in Riverside, do you have a question?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Mine's more localized in nature here. I was wondering if maybe Troy Clark or somebody else could address the effect of the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Corona. Basically, what I was wanting to know is, you know, how is it going to affect this center, and are there any new jobs associated with this?
Can you see me? Hear me?
There he is.
Yep,
there.
I got you.
Yeah.
Oops. All right, so it really, it's just going to amplify the technical capability of the Warfare Center. So getting that reach out into the community, expanding those partnerships. We already have great partnerships within our community, but expanding that, leveraging the network across Naval X, is going to really enhance our capability. And we're focused, like I mentioned earlier, across our 3 technical areas: the data analytics and visualization, network data environments, and measurement technology. So if the other pursuit of this is dual use technology. So if we work with our innovators and are able to develop dual use technologies to address warfighter needs, that's also going to can be commercialized within the private sector, so that can generate jobs.
When you say partners, who are your partners in the Inland Empire? What do you?
We have a number already that work.
Yeah.
Oh, can you restate that? I crossed.
Yeah, let me try that again. Yeah, I don't mean, I know you probably have a bunch of them. You don't have to list them, but can you give me an idea, characterize who they are, what they are? Are they local companies of some kind, and what kind of companies?
Certainly, we have great academic partners. So UC Riverside, California Baptist University, Riverside Community College District. So those are our academic partners, and we're developing cooperative research and development agreements with local companies. We've got one right there in Norco that we signed an agreement with several years ago regarding our measurement science technology. And we expect that this is just going to continue to expand as we roll out the Tech Bridge and work with our network. And then, of course, we're also partnered with Riverside Community College District, and then Riverside County Economic Development Agency, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. So we're going to continue to expand and renew those partnerships and make it more agile under the Tech Bridge banner.
Can I follow up on that real quick, maybe? On the connection with the Riverside Community College District, which I'm familiar with, and obviously right there in the Corona-Norco area, you have one of the campuses right in your backyard, right? Norco College. Does that mean you're going to have expertise from some of the experts of the campuses helping, or does it mean you're going to have some kind of a instruction for the students there that will spin off of this?
Both. So the great thing about our academic partners is they have unique specialties, as well as Norco College, but we're also tapped into via Riverside Community College District. We're tapped into all 3 campuses. So we have Norco College, Riverside City College, and Moreno Valley. Right. And then, of course, the Norco College has unique specialties in the logistics supply chain. So there's a number of opportunities for us. And the great thing about this ecosystem is that when you bring it all together, you can tap into the whole K-12 network to build that workforce coming up. And we have partnerships both with Riverside Unified School District and the Science and Technology Education Partnership. We've been a founding exhibitor with the STEP conference there, and that's reached almost 100,000 students over the last 20 years. And the great thing is we have this, like the continuum across the K through 12 pipeline all the way up through the higher education pipeline. A lot of these are higher education institutions provide great interns for us so they can be working with us while they're going to school, and then have that pipeline to hire so that we can hire on as they come through their degree programs. So it's a two-way benefit to the community.
Yeah, if I can just maybe follow up at a little bit more macro level, but apply it to perhaps that situation to give you perspective. We spend on the order of $500 million a year on our small business innovative research programs. And the Navy is by far the leader in what are called phase 3 small business innovative research program. And that's phase 3 is really taking what's done in research and initial prototyping and transitioning it into a product. And when you transition into a product, you really kind of exponentially grow the jobs out of that. The Navy from FY14 to 18 has spent over $3 billion in these phase 3 SBIRs. And so what I think that also means for a local community through these tech bridges is access to those SBIRs and access to both basic applied research prototyping, and then pipelining into the Navy's phase 3 programs is an awesome opportunity to grow jobs. Now it's got to be for something we need, but we see that as a prime driver of innovation into the Department of Navy and why we invest so heavily into it. And so by making those programs more accessible through the tech bridges, that provides more opportunities for local job growth as we transition from these small bit of innovative researches into phase 3 and then into full products and programs. Over.
Connie Lee, do you have a question?
I don't know.
Thank you. I have a couple Mikes in here without last names. Is Mike Stone there? And I see a Mary Walsh from CBS hanging out. At least I think that might be CBS. Do you have a question, Mary?
This is actually Mary Walsh from Second Fleet. Sorry about that. Just listening in for Second Fleet.
My bad. Great to have you on the line. Is there any other media members that I may have missed? I know a couple of you already texted me and said you didn't have a question, but is there anybody that I might have missed? Please come up.
So Rick Burgess, my question's already answered. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Rick. Thanks for joining.
I don't know if my mic is live. Can anybody hear me?
We hear you loud and clear.
Okay, this is Terry Carnicelli. I'm with the Public Affairs Office at Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division. Good afternoon. My question is regarding Tech Bridges as collaborative spaces, both existing and the new ones. How do you see those functioning in this age of COVID-19, especially when we hear that these social distancing recommendations are expected to continue on for several more months, if not longer?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that we've looked at obviously recently. But what we saw that I mentioned earlier was some of the efforts that the existing tech bridges were able to tackle during COVID. Some of the spaces were actually used to do some small rapid prototyping, to develop masks. But additionally, we are off base, so we're able to use open internet. We have greater access to collaborative tools. So we've been able to connect with industry that has had a lot of questions. If you saw shortly after COVID hit, there was a joint SBIR topic that we are working with the Air Force and OSD simultaneously. And by having these spaces where people could go in at a safe distance, Secretary Gertz and I are in one of these collaborative spaces at the Garden right now. We're able to stay 6 feet apart. We're able to have good internet, better than sometimes we find in other buildings that we occupy. So we've actually seen some value in having that, but it is certainly something we're looking at as how we can use these as places to broadcast our message, keep the workforce connected as they go into working from home.
Yeah, that's a great question. The other thing I would actually observe is it's a little counterintuitive, but tech bridges are even more valuable at a time where we can't get together in our traditional way. So normally a way a lot of folks would get together would be go to a big conference or go to a large meeting or have a big thing at a base. With everybody travel restrictions and all of our desire to keep everybody safe, we actually see much more of a premium on figuring out how to network and communicate with as many people in as many different ways as possible. And so quite frankly, I've used the Naval X here and Tech Bridges as a way for me to communicate in different ways. We're doing virtual market research. We're doing virtual industry days. We're doing virtual collaborative sessions. We're sharing, some of our tech bridges, as Chubs mentioned, came up with 3D printed files for our personal protective equipment. That got immediately flashed across all the tech bridge sites. So I guess my message to everybody is I expect you to be operating in a safe manner, social distancing and only getting together when need be. But to me, that means having these other ways of linking together virtually is all the more important. And don't confuse kind of physical distancing from the need to close down as close as possible our collaborative distance. So again, at the macro level, this is all about reducing our collaboration distance. It's about getting new ways to connect people together that wouldn't have normally gotten together. And one of the, I think, things we're learning out of COVID, which we're going to take forward as we power out of this, is how to leverage these collaborative approaches to enable us to act at the speed of relevance, more so than our traditional have a conference where everybody gets on an airplane to get together 3 weeks from now. If we create enough familiarity and a culture of trust, transparency, and collaboration, we can rapidly reduce that time and expand kind of the diversity of our problem solvers working for our sailors and Marines.
I want to thank you all for joining us. Before I turn it back over to Mr. Gertz for closing remarks, I am open to feedback. He talked about talking to you and communicating on different platforms. We are interested in your feedback, so please do zap me some notes regarding our participation here today at NavalX. So with that said, sir, we're done. It's over to you for closing remarks.
Yeah, no, again, thanks everybody for joining on. As you know, I really value our opportunities to get together here. And so Danny's available if you got any follow-up questions, and continue to engage us. And I think this is an important story. It's a story we're inventing as we're going here. And so I really appreciate a lot of good questions here. And our aim is to be, rapid learning, rapid experimenting. I've talked before, we need to come out of this COVID pandemic in a place of more strength and more resilience than we went into it. And we need to get there as fast as possible. These tech bridges is one of the mechanisms of many we're going to use to get there. I'm super excited and proud of all the hard work the team has done. To all the sites out there who are joining us, congratulations. I know that was not without a lot of hard work. To Chubs and the team, thanks. I know that was also a lot of hard work. And I think you're going to quickly see that, it's not 1 + 1 + 1 = 12. It's going to be, an exponential speed enhancer and a collaboration enhancer for us. And we look forward to success going forward. Again, it's not about us. It's about getting better solutions to sailors and Marines. And I look forward to seeing this be a part of it.
Thank you, sir. That's the end of our show today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.